Rory, thank you so much for joining us here today. We're live here at SocialEast. We're at the Marketing News Canada podcast. So thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
And before we get started, can you just give us a quick overview as to who you are and the work it is that you do?
Sure. I'm presently the Director of Advertising and Content at ATCO, which is the Alberta trailer company, but we're a much larger company that invests in housing, energy, and national defense. So it's quite a different portfolio. Our main role there is to be the center of consistency for all our businesses to help support them with their marketing. And before that, I was at WestJet, and I did a lot of big projects, surprise and delights, like the WestJet Christmas Miracle. And so that's why I'm here this week. Going to talk probably more about those big, audacious projects and then the work we're doing at ATCO right now.
Okay. Did you lead that WestJet Christmas special? Was that you or?
Yeah, that was our team. We led it. We worked with an agency out of Toronto, Studio M, and we asked them if we could do it a bit different. They were a production agency. We said we'll try to do a bit more of the legwork and planning, and they did a bit more.
Okay.
So it's great. And I was actually Santa in the WestJet Christmas videos.
Oh, really?
Because we didn't have much budget back then.
Right.
And one of my leaders just said, go out and do cool stuff. So, I mean, what a great opportunity to be told that. And, we didn't have to check in. We could go out, plan it, make it happen.
Right.
And, we didn't have enough budget to hire Santa because we knew they'd have to come back in and do some voiceover work.
Okay.
So I said, I'll just do it.
Just do it, yeah.
And then that way, surprisingly, you can control the flow of the event, and it really was the start of live events for the purpose of content. And the development of it was really around, back in the day, you do a PR stunt. You invite the media, blah, 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 and you hope they tell their story. But with social media, you can do the same thing. Instead of just trusting the media to tell the story, you can put it on social.
Right.
And we did that back in 2013. So it's been a little bit. But we did no paid promotion around it. So we had 35 million views in 3 weeks.
That's amazing.
And we
can't buy that much publicity.
And we didn't spend a dime. Yeah, it's funny. And the next year we did it again. We probably spent a couple $100,000 on promotion, because that's when, Facebook and everyone learned they wanted the revenue that we were spending on TV to be spent online.
Right.
And then I just read an article this week that brands are spending more on online content by creators than they're spending to promote their own content.
Really?
So really a huge shift. And part of my presentation here is we're actually going to go all the way back to Roman times, straight through the past 100 years, sort of talk about some changes in marketing and how projects were successful and sort of how they promoted themselves and how the industry's changed over the years.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to unpack that in a little bit here, but I want to ask you something a little bit more simple. I've heard this term before, but maybe you could define this. Experiential marketing. Experiential, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
Marketing. What is that?
Well, I mean, there's various definitions for experiential marketing, but for me, it's really about the one-on-one activity where you can look someone in the eye and bring the brand to them. So a lot of it's done, sponsorships have been really great ground for experiential marketing, where you're at a festival or an event, people can come down. We used to talk about bringing the experience from the air to the ground so that the people they met there were the same that they would meet in the ground. So it's really about, if you can get people to spend 3 or 4 minutes with you, they're far more likely to remember your brand a year and a half later. So that it's really built around that process, that if you can have an experience and invite people in, it's far better than just logo placement or hearing a brand announcement or even seeing a commercial on TV.
Right, so that allows people then to really kind of create these deeper relationships with brands then.
Yeah, for sure. There's, one example, they say sort of the first experience was Wrigley soap back in 1893.
Okay.
They gave away this new product. They had invented gum for everyone that had bought a box of Wrigley soap. Well, Wrigley soap doesn't exist anymore, but we all know Wrigley the gum.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the first examples, but I mean, there's been so many through the years where people, and they're so elaborate now, and the use of social media has really been used to tell the stories further.
Okay, very interesting. So, what is it about that type of branding then, or that type of marketing, that allows people to create those genuine connections with people, or allows for the brands to connect really with with their market, with people.
Yeah, I think so much of marketing now has become copycat. I mean, so many agencies present and they'll tell me, oh, this is what Apple's doing, or this is what, Nike is doing. And the thing about experiential marketing is it really does create that opportunity to talk to someone, look them in the eye, and have them go away having, a bit more of that experience. The problem with it is it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is you have to take a risk, and you have to be willing to invite people in without the results being known. So back when we did the first Christmas Miracle, we asked everyone what they wanted for Christmas. They flew a plane, they landed in Calgary, and they went to the baggage carousel. Well, there was a lot of risk that they never talked to us to tell us what they wanted. There was a lot of risk that our team wouldn't be able to find it.
Right.
And they wouldn't even come to the baggage carousel. So there's a lot of activities like that traditional agencies, they're a bit adverse to taking that chance. If you do a radio ad, print ad, TV, digital, your impressions, the audience that should see it. So it's a bit of a risk that you don't know the outcome, but for me, the benefit's really there.
The benefits outweigh the risk in a sense.
Yeah, I think you can't play safe, and especially in marketing where everyone's reading, thousands and thousands of written and digital messages a day. You have to find a way to break out and
break through
if
that
you
noise.
Can get someone to stop, and we always tried to create content around April Fools and Christmas so that the people would actually come to us.
Right.
And I mean, if you're getting people to come to your channels to watch your stories, I mean, that's successful. You don't even have to go to them. And it's a bit of, Red Bull started that with back in 2009. Now they created all that content and they have their own media studio and they present it. And their brand is incorporated in, the stories they tell. But a big risk and sort of different. And I think a lot of people are afraid to take those risks. But that's what our industry is.
Yeah. So what would you say to people then that are working in marketing that are afraid to take the risk? Would you just tell them to just don't worry about it and just go for it? Or how would you kind of navigate that?
I wish it was that simple. I think most people in marketing have good ideas. The challenge is getting them across the finish line and convincing the people. You really have to find a way to control the budget, be able to control the process and have the freedom to do it. And so it's not really to the marketers, I would say anything. It's to the executive leaders, the CEOs. You have to be willing to go out and try some stuff and see how it goes. It's also not for every brand.
Right.
But there's aspects of it that can be. Creating experiences for those people that are key to the success of your brand can work on a B2B level or a B2C level. I always tell our team, there is no B2B. It's always B2C because everyone's a customer in the end.
Reaching with that right. I see. What about, you were talking about the WestJet Christmas Miracle, and obviously I know you said you didn't have that much budget, but you still have some budget. What would you say to companies that are really, really small or they're just getting going, that really have almost no budget? How can they start to think about how they could do marketing a little bit different and give people those experiences to make those brand connections?
Yeah, again, I think it comes back to a lot of copycatting. People see what other brands are doing and they think they have to do it. We have to post so much on social media and we have to, organically send it out across all these channels. I think we need to identify who we want to talk to. And then you need to find the best way to interact with them. And I think it's very complicated. Back in the day, you'd create one commercial, one print ad, and you might have a car at a car show, and you could sell your product.
Yeah.
But now it's much more difficult to find the people. And
you really need to know your audience then.
You really do need to know your audience and the segments of your audience, and then you need to be committed to go find them. And it can be a bit more expensive, and it's just one of those things that I think a lot of companies see what everyone else is doing, and they say, well, let's go try to do that.
Yeah.
Find the people who are going to use your product, and for ATCO, we're selling industrial, residential, commercial units. Those are all different markets, all for different things. Those are homes people are going to live in for the rest of their lives from the residential side. From commercial side, we're bringing in portables to support classrooms and schools. That's a different audience. And then work sites, the people, are renting these trailers that want better work camps for their employees. So you really need to identify where they are and then, go get them and then find out the way to interact the way that they want to be told their message.
Yeah, it's interesting. Before today, I was doing a little bit of research in your company, and your company, like, it's a really big company. And one of the questions I was going to ask you is marketing different when you're with a really big company versus when you're with just like a small company or startup or what have you? And it seems to me that it's not really. It's still about understanding who the market is, what the product is, and finding that fit so you can make those connections.
Yeah, I think they all have different challenges. Smaller companies, even when I worked with the airline, we had much more freedom, and we could be gunslingers, and we could go around and try a bunch of stuff. And in the corporate world with our company, it's a bit more reserved. We're much more trying to interact with those key audiences.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, it's funny, as I say to my team, I was like, marketing is a discipline. And the first rule of marketing is we need to have discipline. So we need to understand our brand, what it looks like, what it sounds like, and then those audience that we have to get to it. So, those startups, if anything, they have way more flexibility.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they don't inherit a lot of traditions. So ATCO is we celebrated our 75th anniversary a couple years ago. So there's lots of traditions, there's lots of people who've been with the organization a long time. There's lots of reasons that we do business based on that tradition and relationship. So, Village Brewery is a great example in Calgary. Jim Button, who we recently lost, he never bought an ad. He started his brewery, and his whole thing was he wanted to use social, he wanted to use community, and then benefits from the beer sales all went back to the community. Okay. So,
what year did he start this?
Oh, I think he started it probably around 2000, 2002.
Okay.
And
no social since then. Okay, wow.
Yeah, and it's all about, it takes a village. That was their slogan. And I always appreciated that they knew who they were and how they wanted to get to their audience.
Yeah. That's very interesting. So I want to go back to this WestJet Christmas Miracle, if you don't mind. What were the key lessons or takeaway that you learned after doing that? Because I think you were probably even surprised at the success that you've had with it, and then, with that success, what were those lessons that you took away?
Yeah, it was a tremendous success. At one point, it was the #1 trending topic in the world, and the #2 topic was Nelson Mandela's funeral.
Oh, wow.
It was it's a great lesson in, in planning. So at the time, WestJet was about owner's care. So what we really wanted to do was show our guests that we cared. And research had shown that people who travel on airlines, their point of the biggest contention, or where they feel the airline stopped caring for them, is the moment they step off the plane.
Oh,
right?
okay.
We've paid, we've got you there, we open the door, you walk up, and now go get your baggage.
Yeah.
And so that's why we built it around a baggage carousel, was that we could, have that experience. And we thought it was something that people would enjoy, but even as it evolved, it turned out to be far more emotional than we thought. We thought it was going to be a happy-go-lucky piece where people are happy, they get free stuff, and away they went. There was one family that they had just moved. They were moving to Calgary, so their first experience in the city of Calgary was going to the baggage carousel, getting all this. We had given them a camera, and they had lost their camera and traveling. So the mother was bawling because she was like, "Oh my God, I've just moved my family here, and now what a great experience! And I have this camera, and I just lost my camera." And people were bawling, and so we made the plan. We believed it would work. We executed it, and then we changed and went with the flow of the whole program. And it's funny, you can plan all you want, but there's one story of they were putting all the gifts on the baggage carousel. For those that don't know, we asked people what they wanted for Christmas. They flew to Calgary, and when they landed, we had gifts come out on the baggage carousel.
When did you ask them? Did you ask them like as they were going to fly that same day even, or was it a little bit
we
before?
had a virtual Santa box where they could talk to Santa. So they would put in their boarding pass, it would scan, and then we had a studio much like this, and Santa was set up. And so Santa could address them by their names, ask them what they wanted for Christmas. And most people just thought that was the fun experience.
Right, just the asking for the Christmas
And then
present.
they flew on the plane. And then while they were in the air, we had our employees run out to the mall and buy all these gifts that they asked for. we had most of the boxes pre-wrapped. We could put them in, seal them, and we ran them to the baggage carousel. And right when we got to the point where we were putting on the baggage carousel, one of the baggage people said, "No, you can't do that. We've got to get the bags. We have to meet our timelines."
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And our crew was like, "No, we've really got to do this. This is the moment.
This is the thing."
And he was like, "Well, what are you doing?" And he was, "Well, we're giving people gifts. Like, see these sneakers? They were donated by Under Armour. Do you think you'd like a pair of sneakers?" And the guy said yes. And he was like, "Okay, let us put the gifts on, take the sneakers, and come back and do your job."
I love that.
in a
Just kind of
second."
rolling with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, then it took off, and that was a lesson in itself. We've seen some recent cases here of brands going very viral for many reasons, and how you manage that. But we really had to circle the team, get in. We had CNN, we had news broadcasts. It was on the Tonight Show, The View. Whoopi Goldberg was talking about it, and so we really had to, find a way to manage all that. But then also, how do we benefit from this awareness? And lots of meetings after that with our agency around how we wanted to position the brand after that.
Yeah. Is there a fine line that companies need to walk in terms of doing something like that, but keeping the authenticity, right? So people don't think like, oh, well, this is just kind of like a PR stunt. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, lots of comments, lots of great, especially back then, conversations. It was really positive, but people were like, well, this is a PR stunt and blah, blah. We actually set out not to make it about the brand. We were very cognizant. We didn't want it to be a commercial.
Right.
We wanted it to be this great experience for our guests that flew with us that day, and then we would just tell the story.
Yeah.
And the rest was going to be a bonus. And what I noticed a lot over the years, and a lot of calls from other brands after we did it, how do we do it, blah, blah, blah. And they all just couldn't get away from their want to do their brand and product messaging.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why it was successful was it was by us, but never about us.
Right. Exactly. I think that's a great lesson right there, is that put the experience first and then everything will flow from that. So if you're going to try to put that branding in there or your messaging, you just pump the brakes a little bit, because it might not give you the emotion that you're wanting to get.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I know, with Cracker Barrel, they had a moment where it got very intense recently
With the rebranding. Yeah.
But if you also look at the way they positioned it when they released it, they talked about, the $700 million they were investing in. It was very much about them.
Yep.
They were talking about, look at what we did, and you should all be impressed, basically. Yeah. I mean, that probably doesn't do credit to the amount of work and research they put into it.
Yeah.
But it came across that the storyline was about them and the money they were spending. And I think, Tim Hortons gets renovated all the time, and you don't know because they don't talk about it. You just go into your favorite store, and it's a bit different, it's a bit cleaner.
Yep.
And
better experience. And
so, that is a subtle difference about talking about who and what the project is versus yourselves. And I think a lot of people that do work with charity, they go through the same thing where they want to talk about, oh, look at this great work. Let the charities tell your story. Let them be the ones that talk about how you supported them. And I think more brands would have success that way. Again, that's a bit of a risk, right? Because you're trusting others to do a bit of the lifting for you.
Yeah. I think that's tough though for some people to let go, because I don't know, as a marketer in a company, I guess you're almost forced to wanting to deliver results, and they almost fall back to the traditional way. It's like, well, we just got to keep telling people what it is we do. So yeah, I could see that being a little bit difficult for marketers.
Yeah, and there's always a bit of a fine line where I think you need to break off some of that budget to do work like this. So have your budget set aside. There was so many times I'd go into a meeting and we'd be doing our destination marketing, and they'd come up and they were like, oh, we want to do experiential marketing. And then they'd say, oh, we put $5,000 out of the budget for experiential marketing. And that's not enough to get it done. And that's a lot of money for a lot of brands, but for what we're trying to do, like
For
internationally.
Sure. Yeah. It's like, come on.
So I think brands, I think Cheetos used to have their specialty fund where they would just enable their marketers to go out and take big swings.
Yeah.
But then they would still have their marketing that was directed towards point of sale and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That is, man, that's so fascinating. I love that story, and I just love that whole thought of making sure the experience and the customers first and making it about them. So that's fantastic. I do have one last question here for you. Is there anything about marketing that people aren't really talking about today that you think needs to be more in the forefront of people's minds?
Yeah, I think that marketing is ever changing, I mean, word of mouth is still the purest form of marketing. So I think if we can keep that in our mind, that, get that in the voice that we need. But I think it is changing a lot when it comes to audiences. It's funny. Streaming came out, and they said, we don't have commercials. You should come to us. We don't have commercials. Now they're adding commercials because the money is sort of following the audiences.
I'm upset by that by no end. It's infuriating.
And so I think one of the best things that happened to me in marketing is I had kids, and they've grown up now and they're teenage boys, and I talk to them and I listen to them in their world, and they don't watch TV anymore.
Yeah.
They stream, and there's a lot of Mr. Beast, who's the world's largest YouTuber now, making $500-700 million a year. He's also into TV, but now he's selling his chocolate bars, his Feastables. There was a great example, Ryan Trahan, a YouTuber out of, he's out of Texas, but he did 50 Airbnbs in 50 days and just did content. But
Okay,
and it was all for charity, for St. Jude, and they raised about $11.5 million, which is really great for the charity. I'm sure the hospital really benefited.
Yeah.
But brands were jumping on board because anyone that donated over $5,000, and he had things that would happen if you donated 50 or 100,000. And in real time, you could sort of see brands. He drove a Kia. Kia jumped in. He stopped at Airbnbs the whole time. Airbnb donated $250,000. T-Mobile noticed he was on his phone and offered him, I think it was $250,000 if he would switch to T-Mobile during the journey. Yeah. And so we had over 200 million views. And so this was really, it was real time. It was interactive. It was a content creator, and it was a new form of cause marketing that we haven't seen before. So this ability to be adaptive and move quick is really interesting. I had an opportunity to meet with Lego when the new Star Wars movie came out, and they had got it down to 3 days of approvals when the trailer came out that they could have a Lego trailer. And the And the same day, a fan had done it and released the whole trailer. And, they had this plan. And for them, they were able to interact with the fan and share their story. And so this trend of now marketers spending more on creators,
which is what you're saying at the start here,
than they are on their own work in video, is really interesting. Yeah. And the rise of video in general has been really interesting, about finding ways to do it and share that content, because people are reading less and less. And so I think it's, as the world changes, our job is to continually going back to finding that audience and talking to them in a way that
where you can find them,
where you can find them, but also in a way that makes your brand interesting.
Yeah. Amazing. That is amazing insights. Thank you so much, Corey. The last word, is there anything else that you want to talk about that we didn't mention here?
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I could probably go for another hour. I just enjoy talking about marketing. And I think the great thing of conferences like this is just people sharing their trends, their new ways of working, and helping each other out. And it's a big challenge as we move forward. So thanks for having me.
Great. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Awesome. That was great.